So, Lambo, are you ready to burn in the fires of whatever Dragon Age Hell's equivalent is?
Saharon?
Does it have it?
The Void, the Abyss,
I guess the Veil.
the
It's
Fade,
Fade.
If you're Solas, it's the Veil is.
or it could be
We're
his
ready to,
his regret prison.
The green fires of the Fade.
You mean the regret prison that takes all of 10 minutes to get out of if you actually try Solas?
No, it took me 15 minutes. I went around and opened the extra chest.
Yep.
What was inside the
mean,
chest?
It was like 3 powerful runes that I ended up using none of them.
Did anybody get the Falisan rune?
Yes.
Yeah. It was cool.
Yep.
It just gives you a shit ton of buffs. I was expecting the way it was worded. I was expecting a Lord of the Rings ethereal army to come charging out and attack.
Yes.
Yeah.
But no, it just gives you a shit ton of buffs that last 10 seconds and then it's over.
Well,
Anyway, Lambo.
Yeah, Lambo, we're here to grill you. So me, Lisa, Marshall, we all talked about our thoughts on the Veilguard, just on our first playthroughs. I think I'm the only one doing a second playthrough. And yeah, we really digested our thoughts. Spent a good bit of time talking about it last episode. But now, you were not here last episode, Lambo. And now you are here. And we want to grill you and see what you think about Dragon Age the Veilguard. And properly interrogate you as our last episode of the year, as we close out the year, with more reviewing thoughts on the Veilguard.
I'm sure no one will be divided on my opinion regardless of what it is.
I hope not. I hope that we can all come to a place of appreciation, understanding, being decent human beings and respecting each other's own free will and opinions. I would hope
That's
so.
a bit too optimistic for me, Jack. Okay.
I hate all of you, and all your opinions are pee poo poo, and I'm the only one who's objectively right.
Why are we even here?
Yeah, I mean, why even have a podcast episode where we talk to each other? I should just take over for the next hour and a half and say my opinions, because I'm correct.
Okay, Marshall, you can be the
Oh,
host then.
Wait, no. I didn't think I'd get this far.
So what we're going to do, Lambo, is, like last episode, we're going to, well, I'd say go around the room, but we're going to be grilling you. You are in the hot seat. We're just going to ask, start us off talking about your Rook, your first playthrough. Are you replaying this game currently? But first of all, we already know that you were a Kunari Warden. Mage? What was it? Warrior? Rogue?
Yes, I was a mage. I was, Kunari, Warden, Mage, Vassell Thorn, I think the last name for the Warden was. I played through mostly just acting mostly like a Warden would. When it came to my interactions with Solas, by God did I call him out, and unlike my Inquisitor, I did not have a good relationship with Solas.
Ooh.
I ended up romancing Harding. As for the major decisions, I saved Treviso because my thoughts were, this is a giant magical city that was shooting light bolts from a castle in the beginning of the game. Surely the rundown Italian-themed city needs me more. And I was apparently wrong. But I mainly chose it because when they were explaining it, they were like, oh, Minrathous is under attack. And then they said something along the lines of like, Treviso's waters are getting blighted. And I'm like, well, the Warden's going to go for that one, I guess.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Also, to be fair, 3 of us went to Treviso and 3 of us went to Minrathous. It's not on me. It's on the people that went to Minrathous. I have not seen the Minrathous one, though I am doing it in a second playthrough. My main party for the game was Harding and Davrin.
Ooh.
That changed towards the end.
Are you okay? Do you want to talk about it?
Did Act 2 have a major... I'm trying to remember. I think it was just Act 2 was fighting the 2 dragons, wasn't it?
And the companion quest lines in terms of what you did for them.
My main complaint for the companion quest lines, I don't like that Varric spoils every single one of them as soon as you meet the person. It's like you meet Tash for the first time. It's like, oh, she can breathe fire, and Varric's like, so there's this guy, right, the Dragon King. He's gonna come fuck you up, and it's like, I didn't even know who that is.
That's the thing, because when I saw Belara's and we saw someone like robed with triangular figures and horns, I was like, oh shit! And I initially saw that figure in the trailer, and I was like, oh, it's an Executor. Now, hey. Being an Aris, and a Forgotten One was still sick, but I was like so excited of shit. We're getting Executor content in Belara's questline. Now we can talk about the Executors later on, but I was like, oh, I can't wait. Still very cool. Really did enjoy that character questline regardless, but the way Varric teased it, I was like, oh shit, thinking it was something else entirely.
When we will come back to Varric. For the rest of my playthrough, I maxed out everyone's strength, I maxed out everyone's companion quests, and then we get to, oh, why are we getting Mass Effect 2 decisions here? So obviously there was the scouting party and who to choose, and between the two of them, their arguments were, I'm good at scouting, it's better if a Warden goes so they can detect the Blight. So I sent Davrin.
Ooh.
because if I learn anything from Mass Effect 2, it's that my romance stays in my party and they're safe.
Yeah.
Anyway.
See, I wish I had that hindsight when I was foiled and fooled by Jack.
I unfortunately lost Davrin, and Assam decides to belly flop into a pit of acid, basically, which broke my heart more than Davrin dying.
Yeah.
Because I was like, no, Davrin, no, Assam! Like, slowly just flying in off the corner of the screen.
Little dumb Griffin, eh?
So that ruined me. I somehow kept everyone alive with my decisions for who should do what in the final mission. Balara was the one that got captured by Elganon. Beyond that, everyone survived. I had my original Inquisitor with me there. Very cool sequence when you start and like everyone's fighting in Minrathous.
Oh yeah.
Oh, it's my favorite.
I don't know if it changes if you saved Minrathous earlier in the game, but it feels like in Minrathous just gets fucked regardless. So
That's the thing.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah, I saved Minrathous, and Minrathous got fucked regardless. So
yeah,
I'm
so
just
save
like,
Treviso from now on.
What was it all for?
The end game should have been at the area where you didn't save, I reckon. So if you saved Teresa, it should be in Minrathous. But if you saved Minrathous, then the end game should be set in Treviso. I get it, that's a huge game dev thing and whatever, but that would have just meant a full circle choice dynamic there of, oh shit, I didn't save that city. And also, oh shit, the Blight is now all over that place, and look at this massive warfare completely out there.
Or set it in Weishaupt. The place is already destroyed. Oh yeah, in Weishaupt, as much as I wanted to, I didn't punch the first warden.
Oh, you're the only
You're
one
stronger
then.
than me.
Yeah, you're stronger than all of us.
Yep.
I wanted to, but the dialogue for that isn't exactly great, because you're basically just like, Warden, you're crazy. Check your ear, you're bleeding. And he touches his ear and he's like, oh, yeah, Rook's right, listen to him. And it's like, what?
Yeah, punching him is much more fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, after that, Solas shows up. My Rook gets angry with him. After I beat Elganon, I decided to trick Solas. And I did show Lisa the cutscene. Solas acts like a real villain and like a cocky villain in that scene. As you're tricking him, he's like, you tried, but you could not outdo a trickster god. But don't worry, I'm doing this to help you. And then as you reveal that he's been tricked, he kind of gets a little mad.
He almost says, "You're immortal, I'm a god." He catches himself because I think at that moment he realized, okay, maybe this was for the best.
Yeah. I don't feel like it was a smart decision to throw the dagger in with Solas.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like we should keep that away from that side of the veil, but that was my main playthrough. I'm currently doing a second playthrough as a human shadow dragon warrior, going to romance Nev.
Whoop whoop.
I'm currently up to the Minrathous Treviso decision, so I'm going to choose Minrathous this time.
Yeah, see how that goes. So, overall thoughts on your first playthrough then?
I'm not going to rate it on like 1 to 10.
No, that's
because
fine. I don't.
hate that system.
That's fine.
Overall thoughts, I would say it is a good game. Not amazing, not terrible. If you're a fan of Dragon Age, I would definitely give it a recommend. There's not much I can say that doesn't lead into other conversations that we're going to have anyway, so I'll just put it at that, like a recommended thumbs up with an asterisk.
How does it compare to Inquisition for you?
The gameplay is definitely better.
Yeah.
The exploration is definitely better.
Mm-hmm.
Your interactions with the world and your backstory actually matter, besides a few war table missions. That was a thought I did have. Excluding the time countdowns that they had, I feel like with all the factions we met, the war table would have made sense in this game.
Yeah, not something I thought we would have missed, but hey ho.
Take away the 20-hour missions and just be like, hey, here's a quest for the Morn Watchers to help, like, bolster their strength. It'll be done after you complete that one more quest or something like that.
Yeah.
It gets instantly done, but there's a set amount.
Yeah,
I
so
will
like instead
say-
of Inquisition agents, it's just the factions themselves doing it.
Yeah.
You said that your backstory added a lot more than Inquisition. You chose the important faction.
You did. You chose what sounds like
Well,
the most
okay.
content.
Oh yeah, there was so much for Grey Wardens. There's been a decent amount for Shadow Dragons.
Shadow
so
Dragon
far.
has a good bit, especially around Minrathous.
I
did my
Dorian. I got so much more.
Yeah, you already know who Dorian is. You already know who Maevaris is.
Oh, hell yeah.
You have those like you know because I chose the faction dialogue and it popped up.
Yeah.
With you get a lot of dialogue with Nev regarding the Shadow Dragons and pretty much any like there's one part later when in Nev's personal quest where you're talking with the what were they called? The thread
Threads,
content guy.
Yeah.
He's like, let's make a deal. It's a good deal, and you could choose the actions like, hey, listen, we're locals, we know there's a catch.
Yeah,
to it.
I just got this.
And he's like, oh, I like you.
Yeah, I think the dialogue was like, if I wanted to get scammed, I'd go see like Old Maybell or something, and he's like, well, that makes sense. I sell to Old Maybell.
I can't say the same about the Lords of Fortune, unfortunately.
I'm so sorry, Lisa.
Mornwatch wasn't as much in the world. It was when you mentioned spirits, but it was worth it for the content you got with Emmerich, because the scenes of Emmerich when you were a Mornwatch are so good. I loved it.
I can imagine. The Grey Warden's backstory was the Blight was attacking a village from the Deep Roads. The first Warden, or whoever was in charge, said, fall back. You went with... Evka and Antoine joined you in ignoring those orders and going to help the village, but you went a bit further than they did by collapsing the Deep Roads tunnel, which caused a house to get destroyed. And even though all the peasants were alive, that house really pisses off the First Warden for some reason, along with ignoring the orders.
That makes more sense of why the Warden doesn't trust Antoine and Evka.
When you talk to them, they mention they did join you in ignoring the orders, but they didn't help destroy the tunnel, or at least they imply that they didn't.
Yeah, because I was saying when the first Warden ignores a non-Warden Rook, it makes sense. But I was like, oh, why is he ignoring Antoine Evka? But if this happened, Antoine Evka still disobeyed orders. I could see why he'd have a stick up his ass. And
when you first meet the First Warden, he just immediately wants to arrest you before you even tell him about the plan.
He's like, oi, you! I remember you.
Yeah. And when you meet Antoine and Evka, I think my Rook apologized for getting them in trouble, and they say we'd do it again in a heartbeat.
Ah,
hey, that's why they're the goats.
Yeah.
Oh, I love them. They were my favorite. The new exploration style for Veilguard, as opposed to being open world, it's now like a Metroidvania, like going back to old areas, using abilities that you've gained by just meeting people to explore areas that were previously locked off. I loved it compared to any other style we've had so far, because it meant that you actually had reason to go back to other areas as opposed to just being level locked by monsters.
Yeah.
Because if you had all the abilities at the start of the game, you could clear Treviso and Minrathous before you even recruit Davrin. I loved the addition of the Lyrium Dagger, taking those abilities so you didn't have to go back and change every fucking time.
Yeah.
The locations were great. I didn't really hate any of them. I think that the beach for the Lords of Fortune was a bit weak. It wasn't connected to their hub like everyone else's.
Yeah. I found that to be the weak. It was one of the most beautiful areas, but from a gameplay POV, it was one of the most boring.
Yeah,
content-wise, there was
agreed.
nothing to do.
I think I went around that Grey Warden Fortress about 4 times and I got really sick of it because there's 3 quests and you have to go back for Tash's quest there as well. It's like, ugh.
I did like the lore for that castle, but I also hate it because I've been saying on streams and podcasts with you for a while, Jack, that I want to make the first Qunari Warden. Because we never there is literally a letter you pick up that talks about the first Qunari Warden ever getting recruited, and it's a whole quest line. There is a dev out there who put that in just for me. But that feels so targeted.
Nope, we're not letting Lambo have his day.
And in the codexes for that as well, it's just this Qunari fucking hated mages. That being said, I did get my exact wishes for the Qunari Warden. I made him as short as possible. I was still taller than every human, but next to Tash, I looked tiny. It was
What about on Harding? How far did you come up? How far did she come up on you?
Yeah, not that high, honestly. I did notice that they did have, for some scenes, the characters did get scaled. In the bar scene at the start with Varric, there's a certain scene where your character gets scaled, so you're he can actually give you the drink normally. Yeah. And I'm like, why is Varric my chin height in this scene? Beyond that, my character, I was able to make, down to the robes, I was able to get him to look perfectly like my mock-up I made a while ago on Hero Forge. In terms of my playstyle, I did go for the dagger and the orb.
I love that playstyle.
I picked the spell blade, the stabbing ability, having the invincibility frames that it did. Once I got it down to costing 1 mana and almost permanently being off cooldown, I was immortal. Especially when you had the rune that just restored all your mana. I'd spam it 4 times, pop that, spam it another 4 times, and if the fight wasn't over, I could ult, by which point I'd have another ability, and then I'd use it, and then the rune was off cooldown, and I'd just keep doing that. The dagger and the orb, probably one of my favorite like play styles in Dragon Age. I love, hitting an enemy 3 times with the orb and then doing the spinning dagger attack.
Yes.
Oh, it's so fun.
The staff felt really clunky.
Yeah, I was using it a lot in the beginning, and I switched to orb and dagger because I didn't like it.
The only time I ever switched to my staff was when its like arc attack was charged.
Yeah. And then you jump and heavy attack, and you're like, all right, yeah, fair, and then switch back. Yeah, same.
I'm playing as a warrior on my second playthrough. I love the sword and shield.
Yes.
The Captain America throw and the parries are actually really fun.
It is.
It's
just
just two-handed weapons a bit clunky, and
It
also
lacks.
where's my greatsword?
Yes, same complaint. I tried a Slayer, and I was going for that greatsword vibe, and I just couldn't find a greatsword, and there are none in the game now, and I just wasn't enjoying the two-handed gameplay compared to Sword and Shield. Loved that, and that's why I respect to a Reaper and loved it a lot more.
I'm going to champion for my.
Oh, nice.
I haven't played a rogue yet because I'm doing my last playthrough.
Rogue's the best, in my opinion. It's so good.
My last playthrough, or my third, because I'm going to do 3 playthroughs before I touch a video on this.
Yeah, that's
my
fair.
third playthrough is going to be a rogue, and it's going to be my Solar Velen.
Yes.
So this current world state is where I'm going to fight Solas. I know it's been 10 years since he's been with the Inquisitor. Solas is a bastard in this game. It is not hard to hate him.
He is.
I mean, we can just dive deep into the whole Varric thing, because that made me hate him for a hot second, and I love him, but that made me hate him.
Because I went into this game with the mindset of, I am not playing the Inquisitor anymore. My new Rook is going to have a relationship with Solas based on how Solas is in this game.
Yes.
Oh man, we hated him. Oh god, did we hate him.
Taylor Swift's doing the same thing.
That was what I was going for in my playthrough. Was like, okay, he's not the Inquisitor. He didn't get to know Solas in like a more friendly ally way. His only knowledge of Solas is that he's a bastard who wants to destroy the world, and I'm going to treat him as such. It wasn't until Harding convinced my Rook that, hey, he's just a guy who feels lonely. Because there are moments where Harding like talks to you. Yeah. I don't know if you know about this Lambo. She's like, yeah, he just seemed lonely all the time. I feel like there might be a chance to save him. And that is what caused my Rook to change his tune. But when Harding died, I was like, fuck it. Harding's not here to be my guiding voice anymore. I'm gonna...
I was going back and forth until his final deception. Just like,
yeah,
don't worry, I will not be the one to bring down the veil. And it's like, you motherfucker.
Yeah. I mean, before that, there's a line where you can be blunt with him. And he says, it's good that you are like that way and that you can speak that way to your adversaries. But don't worry, like, he says something like, at least we've still got Varric. And it's like, you mother frigger. You bastard. Yeah. It's like, you little shit.
Talking about that, I caught on to that about halfway through the game.
Did you really?
Before the end of Act 2.
I didn't.
I didn't.
It was during one of the table meetings with your group, and I was like, why is no one ever responding to or talking to or looking at Varric?
See, the thing is, I noticed that.
And why is Varric never getting out of bed?
Yeah, I noticed that too, but for some reason, I just never fucking picked up on it. I was like, hey, he just needs some rest. It's fine.
Yeah, he's tired.
I would like to say, Jack, I feel like you owe me an apology because I fucking called it.
Well,
That's right, I called it too.
Well, actually, Lisa is the one that wants him to die in the first place.
I never wanted him to die.
None of us wanted him to die, but you said he was fine. You pointed at the picture when it came out of like, look, he's in the lighthouse. Oh, he's not. Bianca's in the lighthouse, and we never give Bianca to Harding or anything.
No, we don't. Well, we had the concept art where she's holding it though.
I picked up on that halfway through the game, and I was just like, okay, so we're in the Fade. So he could definitely be dead. But it wasn't even like a spirit only showing it to Rook. It was Solas using blood magic. Again.
Yeah. The reason it caught me by surprise is because I thought Varric was going to die, but I didn't think it was going to be at the start of the game.
Yeah.
I also didn't think it was Solas that was going to kill him. So when he turned the house, I was like, oh, everything's fine. He's an advisor now. And sure, he's hurt, but he's alive. But then in the end, my Rook was all surprised Pikachu face when it turned out that he was actually dead.
Exact same. I thought he was going to join for the final mission, and then he was going to die by Elganan or whatever. But no, instead it was the regret prison, and it was like.
What's crazy is what's crazy is that like one of the first codexes you can get after that whole scene is Harding sending a letter out to Inquisition contacts, and one of the lines is, "I take it you got my last letter about Varric," or something along those lines, and then it continues on. Reading it at the start, I was like, "Oh, talk about how Varric, got injured," but then once you find out, it's like, "Oh, she's talking about Varric dying."
It's so obvious. They also mention, I don't remember who says it, but someone mentions Varric paying the ultimate price. And it's so obvious in hindsight.
Yeah, Nev does. Nev does, yeah. She's like, oh, well, Varric paid the ultimate price. It's like, oh, well, it's fine now. He's over there. Obviously, you don't know that until the end. But yeah.
When you go back to the ritual site, Harding is like, I should have taken the shot.
Yes. And she's also crying as well when you talk to her for the first time. Yeah.
And when you go back to talk to Solas, and your Rook is like, because of you, Varric's hurt.
Yeah,
and then
like,
Solas Varric is dead, but he stops himself, and then instead he says something else.
He says Varric is quite good at obscuring the truth as well. And it's like, but he's not, it's you! Yeah, I caught on to that about halfway, and I was just waiting for the shoe to drop, and then we were talking to all the dead people, and Varric was like, now let's do mine. I'm like, here we go. And doing my second playthrough now, there are a lot of moments where it's like, oh, that makes sense. Like, when you first wake up, and Varric's talking to you, then Nev or Harding walk in and they never address him. But it's like Harding's like, go on, kid, I need to get rest, etc.
I'll meet you. Yeah, whoever you talk to says, I'll meet you both. But it's not referring to Varric at all. It's both Harding, you and Harding or you and Nev.
Past that, there are a lot of, like, I guess, contrived dialogues to keep that going, because one of the first things my character said about after learning Varric was there was an option where you can say, Nev and Harding lied to me.
Yeah, which is crazy.
Well, my character did say that because I don't think the dialogue
it doesn't like say like indicate that you're accusing them.
Yeah, but my character said that, and it's like, no, they didn't. But yeah, like the second playthrough, like everything they say is just, yes, this could be interpreted as Varric isn't dead. Yeah.
I guess everyone was just trying to give Rook space.
There's also a few moments where, like, I just had you meet the first warden. You have to go back to the lighthouse to talk to Varric. And Harding walks in to you talking to a bed, and she says, what are you up to? And you're just like, oh, nothing, what's up? And she doesn't, like, look or anything. She's like, so I sent out a contact to Antoine and Evkar. And then Varric's like, oh my god, I can't believe I forgot about them. And Rook is looking at Varric and then looks at Harding. And for Harding, there was just 10 seconds of silence where Rook stared at a bed. Like, does she just always want to be like, you okay? Is there something on the bed over there? Where it could have just been like, there's Varric over there. Rook, he's dead. What?
I guess you could say this is just the characters giving Rook space to cope
or
with
like
Varric's
letting him more. Because I'm pretty sure,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he talks about, hey, I'm going to go talk to Varric or something a couple times. And they're probably just like, yeah, let them go talk to Vicky now.
Yeah.
Wait, is Varric in your head as well as Solas?
Yeah, well.
Technically.
To quickly come back on my Rook's relationship with Solas, I had something similar to you, Marshall, where I went into it very open-minded, and I was like, well, I'll see how this goes. And despite the fact that Solas does a lot to make you hate him, I was like, you know what? We're both, from Solas' point of view, he's doing the right thing. He's fighting for a world that he believes in. And my Rook kind of related to that a little bit. Of course, Solas takes it to the extreme and has done some, some things that aren't great. But my Rook could kind of see his point of view. And after talking to my Inquisitor, who is a Solavellan, and as you mentioned, Harding's dialogue about, him being lonely and thinking he could be redeemed, she was like, this guy is, the fact that he feels his regrets and that he feels this strongly about what he did and that he wants to fix his mistake, that tells me that he is not too far gone yet. Yeah. And that's just how I looked at it from my Rook's point of view.
My Rook was quite similar to that, to be fair. Romance Llewellyn as well, so she was joining the journey. And I did enjoy the Inquisitor in this game, to be fair. Definitely more so as a Solavellan. I did play it with my other Inquisitor, who I love, my Trevelyan. But there's more of that impact, especially with a particular ending. And we knew it was going to be that way anyway, but it does just feel a bit remiss without a Solavellan Inquisitor when you are considering the ending and the conclusion of that. But I really enjoyed the scenes with them. I thought they did the Inquisitor a really good job in consideration to what we had with Hawk, where some people didn't like the interpretation of Hawk and them being so against blood magic and things. I really enjoyed my Inquisitor, and I enjoyed reading the missives. Well, they were tragic, but I would have preferred to have seen that in the game itself, but it was still really good to have that coordination with the Inquisitor. And I enjoyed just the amount of content they do get in this game. It was really good.
If you have lived in Ferelden, The past 30 years have sucked.
True.
3 Blights, Corypheus, and a Mage Templar war within 30 years. Move.
Ferelden's never gonna recover.
Honestly, like, just go to like North Orlais, South Anderfels. Like, that seems like the best place. But my Inquisitor was a Trevelyan who romanced Cassandra.
Yes.
Never brought her up.
Ah.
There is, and this is stupid, I will give you that, a single codex entry that is a letter from Cassandra. That's it. I think if you don't romance Solas or Dorian, that's all you get.
I was about to say it's the same for the other romances apart from Solas and Dorian.
Because I was going to say, like, we could use some Seekers right now.
Yeah. Or Red Jennies.
To be fair, in Inquisition, y'all got a nice ending and conclusion to your romance. Solar Valence didn't. So this is our closure.
That's a fair point. It's a fair point. It's just the fact that was one of the 3 choices, and it felt like there would have at least been a cameo of one of the romances with the Inquisitor, and
I get it,
no.
Also, the Inquisitor doesn't have a crossbow arm. They don't even have a prosthetic. They just have, like, a wooden hand. That, like, the fingers never move.
It would have been cool if we could have customized it.
Yeah.
Would have been cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but I get it. The Inquisition choices didn't matter all that much. The only one that mattered most is whether or not you wanted to redeem Solas and you romanced him or not.
Based on Morrigan in this game, I think it's basically implied that she drank from the well.
Or it's at least sidelined into a way where regardless she has the vessel of Mythal now.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't really matter, which is a shame for the whole overarching Mythal narrative where Inquisition was going to take it somewhere. Bearing in mind, yes, they killed Mythal or Flemeth at the end of Inquisition, but we only know that now, having David Gator told us that. But at that point, she did put a part of herself into an Alluvian, and the Inquisitor or Morrigan drank from the well. So it was setting up something with Mythal. And I do believe there was a slight retconning of her character in order for it to relate to Solas' character. I don't mind that. I do think there is a bit of narrative that is missing, or there was something else regarding Mythal, the Inquisitor, and Morrigan in terms of whatever else. Her reckoning that will shake the very heavens, you know, the things that she set up. There was something that I think was going to happen. And I alluded that to either being the Titans or setting up Solas' plan. Whatever, it just feels like it's been too neat. Well, not even neatly. It's been wrapped up, but there's this whole allure of what Flemeth's character was setting up and the other games, and it just hasn't been answered. And now it has just been shoved into, well, whatever, that doesn't matter. Now Morrigan carries Mythal, and this other aspect of Mythal will help grant Solas peace, because the previous one is dead. It's like, okay then. Fine.
Speaking of Morrigan and my rant on Cassandra, the romance with I haven't watched any other romances so far. Besides like the last 2 or 3 scenes together, didn't really come up much throughout the game.
That's like every romance, unfortunately.
For what I've seen, because I talked about this last time while you were off in Sleepyland. But
in
someone who also romanced Harding, it feels like there's like a few scenes, and some of those scenes are good, but also they don't take, like, it feels like there's going to be a quest line of you trying to like figure out a way around delirium poisoning, but then after like the kiss scene, between the kiss scene and then the final scene, it's magically solved.
That being said, the scene of Rook getting drunk from kissing...
It's good. I like it.
That is in my top 10 favorite scenes in all of Dragon Age.
I need to see it. Oh, damn.
It's great. I watched it.
If you romance Harding, you both go for a date at the Lords of Fortune HQ, and you have your first kiss. And it would have been cool if there was an extra effect because I was a mage, but she kisses you, blue lyrium go through your veins, and you like fall over, and your Rook acts drunk from lyrium poisoning. Yeah. And is like tripping over themselves, like reaching out, like, come here and give me a hug. And Harding's like, stop that! What the hell? Stop it! And there are just 2 other people on a date staring at you like you're bad. And it's just very cute. I really enjoyed that scene. Rook's voice acting. I've only heard the one voice. I have the same voice on my other. I didn't really like the second voice choice for what my Rook looked like. Really have any complaints in the voice acting department? More you can't really be anything but an optimistic Rook. If you pick the funny option or the humorous option, you're just kind of a sarcastic dick. And the angry options and the diplomatic options kind of all sound the same.
Yeah, there's no nuance to that. The only one I found was Bryony Corrigan, because she's got that northern twang. She does say things a bit more gruffer. Yeah, she's a Geordie. Well, give us a Geordie accent, Marshall. Go on. Go on.
Oh, the fish and chips sword.
Hey. Because that more gruff tone, things to come across a bit more blunt, aggressive, which I liked, but still, the dialogue, you can't change what they're saying at the end of the day.
Yeah. I had Erika Ishii's voice, and they did a really good job at the optimistic bits.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
the fact that, so I was going into, I think I said this last time, but I was going into the game, and the Rook I had in mind was a bit of a cynical girl, but it's very hard to roleplay that in Veilguard, so...
Plus, I don't think I've ever seen Erika Ishii frown once in their life, because they are an extremely good, happy person.
I love it. It works really well for Rook. If you're playing an optimistic Rook, perfect.
It works really well for my Taylor Swift Rook. It's brilliant, because I'm like, that suits her perfectly, because she's very optimistic, very happy, and it's great. But then when you do want, again, the nuance of Dragon Age, and we play Inquisition, and there's more nuanced tones there, and dialogue options, like saying Corley's weird, you don't have that in the Veilguard, which is lacking.
I do have to say, it does get better after the Fate Prison, because the tone does kind of shift when you get back from that. It gets more serious, and I did really like that. I just wish there were more moments like that.
Yeah, the consistency is the issue. It's like, at the end of the game is where shit gets real, and it's brilliant. It's such a good ending. But it's like, but we need that throughout.
It seemed like the only way to be a dick was just go talk to Solas.
Yeah, it's true.
There's a lot of things... There's a lot of hard choices that Rook has to make, like the Minrathous versus Treviso choice is a tough one. Weishout is one as well. And I feel like we needed just a few moments to reflect on that. We do get that a little bit after the ritual site with Varric, but I wish there was more of that.
I don't know how it is for Lucanus, but I did appreciate that when you talk to Nev after that decision, that one of the first things she says is, I don't blame you. You made a tough call, but it's going to take me a bit to get used to that. Like, she didn't just hate you when it's like, not really your fault. I did appreciate it. Like, there was the maturity there.
The crows, because I obviously chose Minrathous. They're like, hey, you were looking out for your own. We understand that, because I was a shadow dragon. So
it makes sense.
Valario mentions that like some of the crows are still like butthurt that you didn't help save Treviso. But at the same time, I'm like, what am I going to do, man? I'm just a guy.
Just a quick aside for the crows. Unlike the Varric decision, oh my god, Iago, is that his name?
Yeah, Viago.
Iago.
Lucanus's cousin.
Ilario.
Oh, I caught on the second he didn't go with the prison. I'm like, he's the like, as soon as he didn't go to the prison, I was like, all right, you're a bit sus. And then when it's like, hey, do you have her ashes? And he's like, ashes? And I'm like, yeah, it's you. I think the governor's a red herring. No, he was in too.
Yeah, no, I never believed Katarina was dead.
No, same.
No body, no death.
No body, no crime. Yeah.
Wish we could say the same about Harding or Devrin.
Okay, well, that was good. There was a cut thing.
Yeah.
Where like,
What did you guys see at the very end where like Devrin walked out of the Fade and he's like, oh, that was weird.
That was weird. Ron and I managed to get out. Kui Brian Hawk steps out.
And then the hero for Eldon as well.
I'm here too. My purpose is no longer needed.
Just speaking
That's our personal fanfic.
Just speaking of, the Blight was weird in this game. First thing I want to mention, I know that the new Darkspawn are explained as these are the ones that Gillenane experimented on way back when.
Her silly little creations.
I like them more than Origins Darkspawn still. I don't really like Origins just like ogre-looking ones. But I still think that Dragon Age 2 has the best-looking Darkspawn.
How does it feel as a big warding? There's just no more Blights anymore. It's all over.
I believe Epler did say, or Corin Bush in the Reddit said that while the Grey Warrens no longer hear the calling, they hear something else, and that's what the next mystery is going to be about.
Antoine was talking about it.
Yeah. What did Antoine say?
He heard something different.
He hears like a different song or like a different thing.
It's probably going to be the Executors, right? Isn't it?
If it is, I'm going to actually throw myself off.
I was going to say,
definitely will be.
From what they're hinting at this game, the Executors are what pushed the Kunari out of Parvolan or wherever they came from. The Executors are the Storm in the north. They were behind the corruption or the Red Lyrium or the whatevering of Corypheus and Meredith. And one of the devs confirmed that they didn't actually corrupt Loghain because I was very angry. I was very upset.
He still has his agency. They just may have somehow manipulated that scene, even if it's putting a note on a table, for example, or whatever. It wasn't anything.
Or just heightening his
having someone mention at just the right moment.
Yeah.
That the whole thing with what's her face.
It makes me wonder, just what did that agent that Solas killed in Winter Nights? What did he know besides just
to intimidate? Maybe. Yeah. Well, would they know that he didn't want them to know it? That's the thing. That's why I'm excited about it. But I also understand that. And Marshall really, really, really well and eloquently described this, how it's like we haven't heard about them since Origins. We haven't heard them since Dragon Age Inquisition, really. And then they haven't been this looming threat. It's always been lurking, like now we've got with the Elven Gods to Blight. They've just kind of come out of the middle of nowhere and now it all ties to them. And it's a bit like wishy-washy. But at the same time, I'm excited to see what direction they do go in with the Executors. Just because there's clearly something from the very, very start, which seemingly is before the Blight, before the Elven Gods, before it all. And it does still relate to like the Qunari, maybe even humans coming into existence and manipulating a lot of the scenes of Dragon Age. There's still that underlying mystery there that I do like, but I do understand at the same time it is a bit wishy-washy and it is a bit MCU of, well, actually, we've now somehow pushed this character in there.
I do think they need to be very careful in how they approach this. It can be done well, but they need to be careful.
I agree.
I think it would be interesting if they were our jumping off point for exploring unknown lands.
Yeah, exactly, and that would be a good way to do it. Even if we jump 20 years ahead and that the first mission of the new Dragon Age is to defeat all the Executors and then we get another threat but we're in a different continent. Like how Dragon Age has always had two antagonists, We've always had that flip. So maybe even if it's a springboard just to get you off the continent or whatever, but unless they do it really, really well. And the thing is, looking at the concept art and the original drafts of the Dragon Age Joplin and projects, they had so many really good ideas that worked in conjunction to the story. We know that BioWare have the talent and the writing team to do it. It's all dependent upon the execution of the project, the timing of development, and all the malarkey that happened with the Veilguard to why we have what it is now, as opposed to what the artists and writers initially wanted, because they initially wanted such a very, very, very exciting, fun, brilliant, well-told game. And I'm not saying that the Veilguard isn't that, but compared to what their original vision was, it's very, very different. But they can craft a very, very good story with the Executors. It's more a case of, do they have the time, the development, the resources, and all the things from EA to deliver on that, and that's another conversation entirely.
So that could be tied into doing another episode on what was left out, including characters that didn't show up in this game, like Fenris or potentially Anders or Shale, or Fainreal or Francesca
or Sten, which I know he got a codex, but still.
Yeah.
To be fair, Joplin was so long ago, and those were very early concepts. So even if we did get Joplin, that doesn't mean it's going to be exactly like it was described in the art book.
But even the characters we did get that were references, for me in my Warden playthrough, Dorian had 2 scenes: saving me from the first commander and being in the final conversation. That's all I had with him.
And you saved Treviso.
You do get more.
You saved Treviso.
You do get more if you save him.
Yeah, Francesca disappeared from the game completely. Not Francesca,
Mayvarus.
She did.
Never saw them again.
That's ridiculous. That's insane. Because there's a massive, massive choice if you save Dogtown. And it's huge.
Isabella was great to come back, but if we only got to choose one character from the previous games to come back, Isabella wouldn't have been my first.
Personally, she was in my top 10 list only because of thinking about going in the north, Ravane, treasure hunting, very easy to tie into that, but I get it.
Top 10 I agree with, but if I had to pick one, not only would it have not been Isabella, I wouldn't have done nothing with her.
They don't do anything with Isabella or the Lords of Fortune as a whole.
Isabella starting the Lords of Fortune absolutely makes sense. Loved that, but she doesn't do anything besides...
Arena! Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah, Isabella, why are you capturing Darkspawn?
Where are you keeping these Venatori?
Yeah.
Didn't she also say that everyone is there willingly? No one's being forced to fight.
I think she meant more the people competing and not the monsters.
Not the monsters, but the Venatori, they're still people.
Are they though?
Well, maybe. Debatable, I guess.
Who would you have wanted back, Lambo? If you could have, in your top 3, who would you have wanted back if you couldn't have had Isabella?
I'm going to pick one person from every game since
Go for it.
In the original game, Morrigan's already in the game, so I can't really do that. So, Sten. Sten would have been my top, because everyone else doesn't really have a reason. Alistar's running a country in my world. Leliana is off being happy for once. And she wasn't... Leliana's the Divine. Yeah, Sten, the Qunari don't do anything about the Arnton.
They splinter off from the Qun as a whole, which kind of, significantly deflates the...
I was going to say, they splintered off, the Kunari have called war on people for less. I'm surprised they didn't do like a march to like kill the Armtown for daring.
Yeah, I'm surprised there wasn't a civil war.
From Dragon Age 2, Fenris. We just had the Wraith comics.
Yeah.
That would have been perfect. And from Inquisition, we obviously already got the Inquisitor. We got Dorian. Who else could have come? Not like Cole would have been a good choice.
Yeah.
Sarah would have been a fun like reference for a side quest. Iron Bull, if they were alive and with Dorian. Blackwall.
No.
Blackwall's a Vice House.
No.
No, he's not. He's not always a warden though. That's
No.
Yeah. Oh, Iron Bull isn't always alive.
Blackwall
Oh,
in
you
the
know what?
Blackwall's in the bin.
Dave.
Okay. Well, also like, just in terms of what Weishaupt like could have been. Carver could have been there. Your Warden could have been there. Blackwall could have been there.
Hawk could have been there.
Hawk was supposed to be there. Hawk or the Grey Warden Contact was supposed to be there. They were going there in Inquisition.
Yeah, why'd they go there 10 years ago? Nothing happened.
Yeah. Or there should have been at least a courtesy of them being there. At least.
Speaking of which, because I played as the Grey Wardens, in the very first town, Demeter's Crossing with the Mayor, I had the option to conscript them for the Wardens.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
And if you do, he shows up again in the bog with Antoine and Evka. When you go to a castle to rescue some like captured or missing wardens, he saved them and is keeping them alive.
Oh, wow.
And he's actually turned himself around. You meet him like 2 or 3 times for the rest of the game, and he's always actually doing good and helping people. Because I've heard that if you like let him free, he joins the Venatori.
Yeah,
he does.
He does.
Yeah.
In the Elganan mission where he raises his dragon, he's in there.
Oh god, yeah. If you conscript him, he turns out like the best possible version of himself.
I need to be a Grey Warden next. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah, that was like... I'm glad that you could conscript someone, because we've never been able to do that, besides kind of Origins.
Yeah, if you leave him there, he just... You get a mission in Arlathan later.
Yeah.
It's like, there's this weird monster going around killing everyone, and it's like a corrupted, like, Herlock ogre thing of the mayor, and you have to put it down. And your walker's like, good riddance, put his spits on the ground.
Yeah. No, the Viper being corrupted the whole game, but then you have Balara and Nev who get cured after the fight ends.
Yeah, no, like... the Viper, how the fuck did they get kept alive for what must have been months?
Do you know who the Viper's real identity is?
Ashan?
No. Asher.
Beyond
No.
that.
Beyond
Beyond
that. Beyond.
Who Asher is.
Is it in a codex, or if you save in Rathus?
It's in codices, and it's been really found in data mined content.
Who?
The Black Divine.
That makes sense.
And they do nothing with it!
That explains why the Divine was missing, like everyone kept mentioning it.
I'm sad we didn't get to see the Archon or the Black Divine.
That was the Archon, right?
Yeah, no, that was the Archon, sorry, my bad.
Yeah, because the Archon gets
The
killed.
Archon gets...
Black Divine all along was the Viper. Isn't that crazy?
But yeah, like the Blight was just like... I didn't mind the way, like, the new Blight groats and how, like, Gillinan...
I like that. I like the organic element of it, because it's alive, and I like that conclusion. But
Yeah,
then,
now it's
like, how did Balara and Nev get cured after the final end if they were Veilguard heroes? How?
I think they did explain that in the Reddit AMA. I just don't remember what they said, but it was the closer the people were to the center of wherever Solas went into the Fade, they got cured, and the further away the people were, they're still blighted, but the effect is not as bad.
Oh,
So the
Paraphrasing,
Viper
but
is like
something along those lines.
semi-cured at this point.
Also, the
I
fact
suppose.
that Solas could apparently cure the Blight the whole time is...
yeah.
He cleansed they even bring this up, he cleansed the idol and made the dagger, and they are like, did he cure it of the Blight? And it's just never fucking brought up again.
Like, at least in the previous games, we had inclinations of it, and it was ambiguous with the whole Fiona thing, and then dragons and all that thing, and now it's just like, there's just oh yeah, Solas can do it, but we're not going to explain it. But it's like, but you were building up so much lore and establishing so much mystery, and now it's all
Dragon
gone.
Nut.
Yeah, you can explain that again. Explain it, Marshall, to the people. They want to know.
Explain Dragon Nut. Okay. All right. Well, my biggest game theory before this game came out was that the cure for the Blight is dragon's blood. Because the only instance up until Veilguard that we had of someone being cured of the Blight was Fiona, and she had a child with Merrick, who is, according to the lore, that whole bloodline apparently has dragon blood with it. So the dragon blood and the blighted blood canceled out, allowing Fiona to get pregnant and cured her, and then Alistair popped out. And also there is the dragon in the western approach, I believe it is, that grows like a cyst around the Blight, so it doesn't get blighted. And even Tosh in this game brings up dragons don't get the Blight. They're smarter than that, which is Tosh being, having that knowledge that dragons don't get the Blight, even if they aren't entirely 100% correct as to why. It's even knowledgeable by someone who is a dragon expert like Tosh that dragons don't get them unless they are intentionally corrupted by, like, Ripheus or Gillenang.
Yeah.
But I had my whole theory was like, okay, because Merrick put his dragon nut into Fiona, she got cured, meaning that, like, the cure for the Blight is dragon's blood. That's why it's called the Dragon Age, because it's gonna bring the end and the cure to the Blight. Oh, it's all right there laid out.
Full
I
circle.
see the puzzle pieces.
But that's what David Gady was setting out in the books, and now it's not.
And now the Blights as the events are done, and apparently the Blight is forever changed, where the Grey Wardens hear something else now. Solas apparently could just cure instances of the Blight the entire time and never bothered, which also, this is obviously a plot point that was written later, but in hindsight, it's so funny, because Solas could have known the entire time that Blackwall wasn't a real warden, because he wouldn't be able to see that there's no Blight in him.
Unless he needed Mythal's power.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Because I was going to bring up the point of, like, when you go to the future, Solas, were you just waiting to cure yourself or something? Or
Fair enough. That's a valid counter.
I reckon it'll be when he's got Mythal's powers, when he's back in. Oh, I can unblight things now. But it's still a valid point.
It's still silly
because we don't know. That's the thing is, it's not left ambiguous. It's not a mystery. It's like more of a Deus Ex Machina. He can do it. We're not going to tell you how. We're not going to tell you why. He can just do it, and he's done it for a plot point of getting a dagger, and that's it. There's no explanation for it.
I saw this post on Twitter that was like, imagine being the hero Ferelden. You spend 2 decades wandering around Thedas trying to find a cure for the Calling and the Blight. One day it just stops, and then you hear something else.
I'm getting too old for this.
I think my warden would be very cranky. She could have spent time with Alistair in a castle this whole time.
Just speaking on dragons and stuff, like, they made the plot point very early on that it worked like Corypheus, that they can't be harmed without their dragons being killed. Why did they like send their dragons to the other end of the world? If they just sent their dragons to Ferelden, we were fucked. They win. Also, why didn't they do the eclipse earlier, if they could just do that?
They needed the red lyrium dagger.
They didn't do it as soon as it was ready. Like,
I think that's just because we pissed off Elgranon.
I was going to say, it was ready, and then as soon as we killed Gillenang, he's like, fuck it, we'll do it now. And it's like, why are you guys waiting? And just on top of that, I don't know, if this is a hot take, Gillenang was a much better villain than Elgranon.
There's so much of Gillenang, that's the thing, it's great. It's great, because you see her within 2 hours of the game at Demeter's Crossing, only her voice. And then, like, 3 missions later, after Davrin's mission, you see it at Treviso or at Docktown. And then you see it Weishaupt. So there's consistency to it. It's not like Corypheus where you see him twice and that's it. You actually see Gillenang a few times throughout and are in communication in regards to that. And that's good. But Elganon, like, we were all thinking before in the marketing of this game, oh, they're going to save the Elganon reveals, so big, huge moments where he's going to come and, like, cause so much mayhem. No, it's literally because that's the amount of content he gets in the game. There's, like, nothing.
Gillenang's motives are much more interesting than Elgranon's. Elgranon is basic, I want to be big, bad, evil ruler of everything. I like making silly creatures, and it's the correct thing to do, and you should all join me or else I'll kill all of you.
Gillenang's design is amazingly, like, horrific.
Yeah.
And Elganon's just like, I got my honey back. That's about it.
I get what you're saying. I understand. But I think Elgranon is cool, okay?
Go on, Lisa. Sell it to us.
Tell us.
I don't know. I thought he was very intimidating, especially during the finale. I just think he's very cool. Plus, his fight with Solas is one of my favorite scenes in the game. It's great.
Yeah, it is a cool scene. And he does have a nice voice. I'll give him that.
Mm-hmm. He does. I just think he's very cool.
I just think he's neat.
Gillenang's design was so, like, her, like, one eye is just a mouth, and another one is just a collection of, like, the tendrils and weird, like, little, like, random limbs coming out of the bottom of is just amazing. Like, she destroyed Weishaupt in, like, a few hours. She was just really intimidating and cool, and then, after she dies, it's like, it's mostly Elganon, but, like, the only thing I noticed, like, with Elganon that was interesting is that I don't think he ever asks a question. Like, at no point does he question, like, his sentences never end with a question mark. He's always just saying statement.
Yes, I don't remember who it was. One of the writers, one of the devs actually mentioned, I think it was Trick Weeks, either tweeted or posted something on Blue Sky about something Tash always does, and then something Solas always does, and then something Elrenon always does. And I think one of them...
The Tash one was they never speak with commas.
And then there was also something about Elrenon, and I believe that was he never asks questions. Solas never demands anything, and Elrenon never asks questions.
Because I specifically noticed that when he's got you trapped in like that maze and he's arguing with Solas the whole time, whereas Solas is asking like questions, Elrenon's always just making statements, and I was like, that's a fun little like thing, and I kept an eye out, and like the whole game he never does, and it's like that was interesting. Like, because I thought it was going to go down the route of this isn't working, we can't stop the Veilguard. They never say the word the Veilguard in the game.
They say it once in
at the end.
I thought it was going to go down the route of Gillenane experiment on me to make me stronger. Like Gillenane was going to like make Elgar more fucked up.
Yeah, like more monstrous and shit.
Or they fuse or something.
Little tangent, but I know they were drafted in concept arts because we saw them so many times and we couldn't stop talking about them, and they were in tonight's. I wanted to see more of Gillenane's monsters, like the sea creatures, the centipede, and I know that games, budgets, time, models. I know. I really wanted to see those kind of Gillenane's, at least one Gillenane creation. I loved how we saw Razaka, the Archdemon, be turned into two separate entities. That was cool.
Yeah, it was like a Hydra in the water.
Yeah, the boss fight wasn't as fun because it was just the same attack, dodge again. Okay, right, I'm killing you again. I'm doing it a third time. But the design and the mutilation of that dragon was amazing. And I just wish we got more of those, at least other mutilated beings from Gillenane in regards to the enemy variety, because it was just Twisted Darkspawn and very much different art styles of previously established characters. So I would have preferred just more creations, even one as a boss towards the end of the game or whatever. But no, didn't get any of those, despite them being mentioned.
I did enjoy it, mostly having at HOTSEAT where she like fucked with dead creatures or the Blight to like reconstruct them. Like you kill the dragon and you're like, haha, now what? And she's like, you're not dead yet, and like tears it back to life and splits it. I'm like, make a giant horrific monster out of the dead wardens around you because they have the Blight or something. There's a lot in this game of, I think Lisa, you coined it in your video that I watched, of tell don't show.
Yeah.
Where it's like, there's a lot, like the main one I think we're all thinking of is how did your companions just randomly pull you out of the Fey prison?
I mean, I wasn't thinking about that one, but bloody hell, that is a very good one to think about.
It's so random. Like, why did they decide to make a new dagger? How
am I
supposed to know?
It's not lyrium?
Yeah. How am I supposed to know how long I was gone? We only learned that in Balara's romance, where she says it's been weeks, but I thought it was days.
Yeah, same.
I thought it was minutes or hours.
Well, Nev didn't say anything about it.
I think
how did they find Rook? How did they get them out?
They made the fake dagger. Yeah, how does Solas not know that it's not lyrium? Because at one point he looks at it and like looks back at you and then still does it. And my first thought was like, he's just too arrogant to assume we could trick him. But like, you're an elven god. You can sense what's real lyrium and what's some random crystal that Manfred pulled out of his backpack.
I agree. I think I'd also say, well, he was just he was either too distracted because he was so close and too cocky to realize that we tricked them.
He was so right, okay, weird. That's it. The moment's going to happen. I'm going to destroy the veil. But surely he would have just felt the blood of Lyrium on his hands. The blood of the Titans on his hands as a dagger. Surely there's some semblance. It sings a song anyway. Doesn't regular Lyrium sing a song? There are so many ways to be able to tell that is not Lyrium. And I feel like Solas, who literally was the one who wielded that blade back when severed the ties, he would be the one to have some kind of semblance to that being his blade and that not being his blade. But especially no.
Holding it behind their leg, like, can't Solas just be like, I can sense the dagger, but it's not here.
Yeah. Because you've literally got the other one on you. So he's like, well, that's the wrong one. I get it. Yeah. It's an ending. I didn't do that ending, and I'm glad I didn't, because it just comes across as a bit daft.
Especially throwing the dagger in after him. The start of the game is another example. Like, I get that it's supposed to be like where, like our characters passing in and out and we have to keep the Varric bit a secret.
Yeah.
You just wake up in the lighthouse and people are like, yeah, the Illuvian brought us here. Why did it bring us here? Is it because Solas is in my head?
That's the thing. It was explained really well in the Game Informer article, which we read before. And it was very well, like, illustrated of how they did it. And then in the actual game, it's so clunky. And because I read that Game Informer article before, where it gave you the walkthrough, I knew what happened. But if you're playing that for the first time without understanding or reading that Game Informer article, it very much was like, right, well, how did we go through here? In the article, it says that when Rook gets a dagger, that fixes the Illuvians, but in the game, it's when Balara fixes the Illuvians is when it... So it's like, that wasn't correct in the article, but it would have made more sense if they just did it that way, where you got the dagger, the Illuvians listen to you because you wield the dagger, because it's Solas' network. That makes sense, but no, Balara fixes it, and now you can go anywhere. So there isn't that dependence on the dagger, but it just makes more sense if they did do it that way.
I can't think of any other specific examples off the top of my head of just like, hey, there's this amazing thing that happened. Anyway, moving on.
I think the game's two best moments are the Weishaupt mission and the final mission, the Mass Effect 2, assign the roles and go and attack Rathus. I think those are the best parts of the game.
I would like to add a third. Doing Emmerich's side quests when man...
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
That's the best. That's the best companion quest, in my opinion. And yet to do.
Manfred, did you just talk? Yes.
You do a good impression.
I know that Matthew Mercer did that. He must have been in that the booth for 10 minutes. It's like, can you voice Manfred? Yes, Manfred. All right, I want my bill. Solas's murals reveals could have been better.
I think it should have been mandatory content that were cutscenes fully fledged out.
Okay.
As opposed to just a mural. But I get it.
The tell don't show thing, seeing Solas's memories of fighting with Felisan, they were cool.
Yeah.
But take those out and have cutscenes of young Solas in those mural moments.
Exactly.
No, don't take out Felisan. No, not Felisan.
Do you think the caretaker is Felisan?
No, the caretaker has been data mined to be the spirit of an old dragon, but at the same time also the spirit of need, which is a spirit that Solas used to talk to when he would plead about helping Mafal and when Mafal died. So the caretaker kind of data mined had aided Solas back in the day as somebody who was there for him when he was grieving or when he was dealing with Mafal and stuff like that. But that's not other, and that's also data mined content.
Let me placate you then, Lisa. Have all those scenes be cutscenes, and then just have a really long cutscene showing the moments that you played through of Solas' backstory being a random elf he saw. Have all those in a compilation of him and Felisan slowly going from, Solas, the revolutionary helping elves, to basically doing what Elganon is doing and throwing people's lives away.
I'm okay with that. Leave in Felisan.
Because that was good to see him, but I agree, it was show, don't tell, and we talked about this. Sorry, don't tell, don't show. And we talked about this last time, and it was more the case of, I know you went Lambo, but it's more the case of all we were getting from those mural scenes and the discussions was, this is telling me this thing, but the characters are barely reacting to this massive revelation. There were a few that they did react, but it was more, oh, so that's confirmed then. Oh, crazy, that changes everything. We played Dragon Age for the ambiguity and for the feelings and for the reactions, and there was barely any of those reactions to these massive revelations and what it means. And also, I wanted more context of talking to Solas about these memories, about these things. I wanted that to build more of a case for the Rook relationship, but it didn't, and none of it mattered if you looked at all of his memories, besides getting Mathal's essence at the end. But we couldn't confront him about the hard things he did, like leading his army to their very death. And also a quick tangent, but they just confirmed in the Reddit discussion Q&As that the reason why there are no Fen'Haral agents is because through Solas' memories, he discovered he didn't want to be a leader or didn't want to lead all these elves and stuff. And so from the events of Tevinter Nights to the Veilguard, diminished all of his agents, and that's why they were reduced and didn't appear in the game. I think it's a bit of a cop-out, to be honest, because, I mean, originally, again, I know it's conceptual, it was an idea, but originally the agents were going to be a huge deal of Joplin. Solas was going to have his own separate second-in-command, and the agents were going to be causing massive war in Thedas, and now it's been reduced to, oh, well, they don't really matter. And I get it. Cuts, budget, I get it. I'm not saying this out of malice. I'm just saying. But from a character point of view, so, and in Tevinter Nights, establishing that, and Felisan's character that was established in Masked Empire as a Fen'Haral agent, there was so much surrounding them and what they were going to be doing and causing, strife between Tevinter and the Qunari, for example, in Tevinter Nights. And it just kind of was redacted because Solas didn't want to be a leader anymore. It's like, okay, right.
Another way they could have done that is because Ferelden and Orlane or that are getting screwed over while you're dealing with the gods. They could have had it that after Solas disappears, their panic leads them to Elganon and Gillenane, and they're controlling them to fuck over the south.
Yeah, easily.
Like, even if that was also a cop-out, at least they're there.
At least they're there, and it explains as opposed to Solas just disposed of them and decided differently, when we know conceptually he didn't. And it just makes Winter Night's plotline seem redundant now. And that's something that I do want to revisit maybe in a podcast or a video of where does Winter Nights now come into picture with the Veilguard now in perspective? How do we review those stories now? And, you know, I'm not thinking too harshly on the stories of Winter Nights, but that book was setting up the lore, the characters, and the plot beats of the Veilguard. And parts of it just don't go anywhere, like the agents. So that'll be interesting.
To Winter Nights and all the short story. The amount of characters they brought from those... Like,
there's loads. There's loads.
Oh, like, I never expected to see Antoine Evcar. All the lead, like, Strife and Irulan, like, everyone.
Yeah, there's loads. No, it did really good justice to that. It's just it's the big thing to me. It's the Agents of Fen'Harel. That was huge. It's like okay.
My thing, Lambo, you probably have the opposite opinion of me. I don't think bringing all the Tevinter Knights characters and making them the main characters for each faction was a good idea, because no one would know who they are unless they read a book.
That is true, but also
That's
the
fair.
alternative is just some random people.
Yeah.
They didn't import anyone.
That's
from
fair.
previous games.
See, that's a fair part.
Yeah, like just conceptually, like Isabella, obviously from Dragon Age 2.
Yeah.
The Grey Warden could have been like Carver or Blackwall.
All the Grey Warden contact that did survive, if potential.
Stroud, Alice, Shadow Dragons could have just been Dorian and stuff, but like, even then, that's still asking people to play their previous game, so there's a commitment either way. It's just, hello, I am Grey Warden Bob the Elf.
Yeah. Well,
you've never met me
He's my
before.
favorite character.
I'm about to be another very important character.
Well, the other idea is one that Marshall had last time, and that's this should have been 2 separate games, and then it could have give you new characters, but you gain attachment to them, and they develop, and then they can be in a bigger role in the next game. So at least then you meet them, you understand the stakes of that faction, you understand what they're all about, and then you recruit them properly in the next game to face against the Blight, the Elven Gods, whatever. And we kind of know that was the intention of Joplin. I won't harp on about it too long, we'll save that for another one, but the intention there was to have a game focusing on Solas, and then have the Elven Gods be released, I think, towards the middle, towards the end. Not really sure, of course, because it wasn't developed, but, you know, the bulk of that was about going after Solas, and that was the entire point of it all. Whereas, obviously, the Veilguard pivots to, no, you're dealing with Solas straight away, and now it's all on the Elven Gods. There was definitely kind of lots and lots of pressing and gathering all of this narrative to make it smaller and obviously achievable as a product, which I understand is very, very hard. And that's why there are so many rough spots, because it just feels like it's too large of a story, too large of a narrative, too big with the entire continents we have to summarize in one game.
Jack, we waited 10 years for this game. If it ended on a cliffhanger, I would have cried.
Despite all the loose threads, I do think they did a really, really good job with the main story, because this main story is one of my favorites out of probably any BioWare game I played, or at least close to it, especially the finale. Like Act 3. Act 3 is so good. Where I think the game did not deliver as much as hoped is just the companion arcs, and I guess the romance are part of that, but just the companion arcs, the exploration of their background and the struggles that they have. And it also doesn't really give us enough closure, I think. Like, we don't know what happens to Rook afterwards. We don't know what's next. It just ends. And I think it closes, it ties up the threads of the main narrative pretty well. Like, I don't feel like I'm lacking closure for the main narrative, and like for the world in general, I think that's been tied up pretty well. But the companions is where I feel is the closure is lacking. That's a shame.
That's the thing,
especially now that it's been confirmed that we're not getting any more story updates or
DLC. That's the thing, because like the main threat and story of Thedas is fine. Yep, Elven Gods are sorted. The Blights, not the Blight as a whole, but Blights are sorted. And now you've got the inkling of the Executors. But like, oh yeah, there's no cliffhangers there besides, obviously, the Executors and whatever's going on there. But it's been tightly wrapped up in that regard. Now it's just stuff like Rook, the companions, and their narrative, and what could happen for them. And the Veilguard's future, what's going on there. Like, that's the thing. It's like there's no closure in that regard. And it's normally the opposite. Normally there is so much closure for, you know, the main hero, their companions. There's a little bit of a tease for DLC. And then there is a cliffhanger regarding the plot threads and the state of the world. But the opposite's happened here. And we want DLC on Rook and the companions to wrap up their story, or a little Citadel expansion of having fun, going into Antiva for like a bank robbery, silly daft mission, and getting some closure a year, 2 years after the Elven Gods have been defeated.
Just a Trespasser or Citadel-like DLC that dives into the character companion arc a little bit more and gives us closure. That is what I would have liked to see for the Veilguard.
I wonder if they wanted to wrap everything up in a nice little bow as quickly as possible because they just aren't sure if they're going to get another
I think
game.
that's it.
They're like, this might be the last, so let's try to wrap it nicely, which is obviously impossible because it's a massive franchise that spans 2 decades. It's extremely difficult to wrap everything up, but I feel like they tried to somewhat succeeded. Some other places they may have failed, but they wanted to wrap it as nicely as possible. But then of course they throw in the like, it's our time to show up now. We are the
we're the true threat the entire time. It's like, oh well, that's not wrapping anything up, is it?
At this current point, it is probably my second favorite Dragon Age after Origins. Inquisition would be my third, and 2 would be my last. Not because it's a bad game, but just in terms of enjoyment across the other 4 games. I can't express my gratitude and admiration for who worked on this and things that they love. And it's just like, is it the game we wanted after 10 years? Yes. And take that for the loaded answer that it was. But I'm still going to play it to absolute.
Yeah.
And
same. Like, despite everything, despite our complaints, knowing only a fraction of what went on behind the scenes with the rough development, I think the devs did an incredible job on this game. Like, the game is super polished. For most games that have been through development hell, they come out a buggy mess. And this game, there's one thing that I think everyone can agree on. This game did really well. It's the polish.
Absolutely.
Yeah. They looked at Andromeda and were like, never again.
There's going to be a lot of new fly cams thanks to this game.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
See, I think this is probably the best thing for this podcast. I just went to Nexus Mods, and the latest mod is Kiss Makeup for Emmerich.
Yes. Look.
Oh, that's crazy. Oh, that's crazy.
I guess that there is no better ending than Kiss Mods for Emmerich. This will be the final podcast of the year, obviously, because it's already, releasing in the end of December. But thank you all for listening to each of us this entire year. Listening to us talk about Dragon Age, the future of BioWare, and everything on the Veilguard. It has been a year. And we're continuing this podcast throughout the year, just because we have been following the Dread Crumbs of the development. This podcast is going to continue long into the new year as we talk about just Dragon Age as a whole, what this game means to us, the future of BioWare. February, that we'll have BioWare's earnings call where we'll see how much this game sold, and of course there are loads of things we want to talk about regarding just this world, this game, now that we have Lambo's general opinion on it. But thank you all so much for listening and joining us throughout this year. Really appreciate it. And massive thank you to Lisa, Lambo, and Marshall for joining me for this episode. And I just want to wish everybody a lovely transition into the new year, regardless of how this year has been. Hope that you're able to end this year on a high and just start 2025 in a better place. But I appreciate you all supporting us throughout this year and joining and listening to us ramble about our favourite video game franchises. We hope you all have a lovely end to 2024, and we will see you all in the new year. Until then, have a good one. But goodbye.
Happy days.
Bye.